The Honourable Member for Victoria.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I welcome the opportunity to rise in favour of Motion 441, a motion to carry out a review of the vessel operation restriction regulations. And I had the honour, I'm so pleased to have been able to second this motion presented by my colleague from Laurentides-Labelle. You know, Mr. Speaker, this is a very straightforward motion. It masks a complicated issue, but all it really asks this House to do is study and look at how we can improve and streamline the existing regulation that was passed. Create a streamlined process, it says, to enable local administrations to request restrictions on the use of vessels on certain waters in an effort to improve how waters are managed in the interests of public safety and environmental protection. It's pretty straightforward. All we're asking the government to consider is whether this 2008 regulation, in light of the evidence that my colleague has presented, is working effectively. And we would really welcome the opportunity as the seconder to work with the government to see if we can make it better. My colleague spoke of three principal reasons. The need for social peace on some of these little lakes, and I live in British Columbia and I've seen the fisticuffs that can happen when you have skidoos and power boats versus people who want to kayak or have canoes. And I think that's something that we really want to talk about, and my colleague, I thought, did an excellent job in outlining that objective. The second reason, of course, is enhanced environmental protection, letting municipalities better get at this and improve for the purposes of environmental protection. And the third one, which I would hope would attract the government's attention, is the red tape reduction, something this government has spoken very effectively on. And this is an area where we could actually make a difference working together. So as someone who comes from an urban riding in Victoria, I can attest to the kind of conflicts that happen even in urban areas as people try to undertake outdoor activities on lakes. Sometimes, as I say, with the kind of conflicts that occur on lakes even in our area. And so these regulations are 5 years old, and I think the simple plea that my colleague's motion makes is that we should try to improve them if we see problems, and I believe for reasons I'll come to that he's identified some very, very clear problems. It starts from the fact that the process set out in the guide that he spoke of, pursuant to the regulation, sets out an extremely lengthy, complex, and costly process. He talks about municipalities having to do a three-step public consultation process, explore non-regulatory alternatives, apply for a restriction on the body of water in question. Then there's a complex review in which the Office of Boating Safety reviews the file and ensures the process is undertaken in meeting a particular cabinet directive of which the member for Essex, the Honourable Parliamentary Secretary of Transport, spoke, namely the cabinet directive on streamlining regulation. And I think it's telling, Mr. Speaker, that my colleagues' excellent and assiduous work on this has unearthed so much support from people in different areas. Let me, for example, mention the Quebec chapter of the Canadian Parks and Wilderness Society that applauds this motion, says it's a simple and practical solution for managing our waterways, especially in smaller communities that lack the resources needed for this kind of endeavour. We hope Parliament adopts this motion. That's from CPAWS, the Canadian Parks and Wilderness Society. The Fédération Québécoise des Municipalités, the Quebec Federation of all the municipalities, applauded this motion as well. There is a problem. People identify a problem. The former mayor of North Hadley talked about the difficulties and complexity. He said this, quote, "Even federal officials are saying that the process is much more complicated than before. We're going to need a project manager just to apply for a regulatory amendment," close quote. That is from Pierre Levesque, the former mayor of the township of Hadley. And my colleague has done so much consultation in trying to get to the bottom of this that many, many other people have come to the same conclusion, that there is a problem. Let's try to work together to fix it. Again, what we're asking for is to work together to fix a problem that has been identified by so many stakeholders it seems like it's merely a request that we sit down and try to improve this regulation. And I'm disappointed that the government has apparently slammed the door in the face of my colleague for this initiative. I'm hoping we can persuade him that this is a problem that we can work on together to fix. My colleague was very, very clear in noting, as the Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Transport did as well, that navigation and shipping under Section 91 of the Constitution Act 1867 is without doubt the exclusive domain of the federal government. And my colleague was very clear that there's no effort whatsoever to derogate from that. All he is seeking is to empower municipalities and local governments, Aboriginal, other, to address the problem when it arises and to have real teeth. He pointed out a very serious and specific problem. He talked about how a tiny municipality, think of a rural municipality in northern British Columbia or in the Laurentides, in the case of my colleague, say of 1,500 people. He said, you know, they have to get legal advice, they have to do all of those steps I talked about, all that consultation, spend all that money, and if they get 97% in favor, still that's not enough because one person can thwart the consensus that's been achieved in this code of conduct. We can do better than that. We can do better than that and put real teeth behind this. So if it happens that a local government, having done the consultation with all the parties, Aboriginal, non-Aboriginal, comes to a consensus position, they can get this passed without the kind of difficulty, without the kind of red tape that my colleague has demonstrated so obviously exists in this process. And so I know that this has been an issue all over Canada. It's certainly been an issue in my province of British Columbia. He even referred to the frustration on Columbia Lake, where after years and years, only two or three sections have been able to be set apart and restricted as per the wishes of that local area. And so the point I'm trying to make in short is there is an issue, and I don't understand, Mr. Speaker, with the greatest of respect, why such a simple issue can't be addressed in good faith by both sides of this House, now that the issue has been identified so clearly by so many people. I think it's just a simple matter to say we got a regulation, it's not working, let's fix it. I thought that's how we were supposed to work together. How about the second issue of environmental protection? Well, often, you know, that's at the bottom of the complaints that local government gets. We got too many motorboats, they're causing pollution in the water and the like. And there are other things about water management that have attracted municipal attention in the past, where power boats, for example, are involved. Eutrophication of the lake can be exacerbated by the use of motorboats. There can be this could contribute to shoreline erosion. There can be greater turbidity in the water that causes sediments to rise from the bottom of the lake. There can be increased density of algae that's created. And these issues come to the attention of local government. They live right on the lake or the water body. They say, I know it's federal, I know it's a federal issue, let's try to fix it. They try to use this regulation, and my colleague has pointed out very, very clearly, it doesn't work. So it seems to me fairly self-evident that we should try to take such a simple problem and work through it. And I would have thought especially that the red tape reduction would attract the attention of the other side of the House. We hear a lot about that, but when we come to them with a specific demonstrable example, they seem to turn away from it. And I don't understand that. This regulation costs nothing. This is a question not of money, but about trying to reduce the amount of obstacles thrown in the way when municipalities want to get involved and take action on the waterway in which they're located. So there are many solutions that can be addressed, but what we're simply doing here is asking the government to review the regulations, consult with the provinces, consult with the municipalities, consult with the First Nations, and go forward and produce strategies that will work for Canadians to simplify this process and make it work. We understand the regulation was enacted in good faith with a desire to address this problem. We agree with the regulation. We just want to make it work better. And again, I would ask that this government think seriously about how we could do so, how we could work together to address this very specific but very real problem. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.